Hi everyone, my name is Jack McQuibben from Zero Waste Europe. I'm one of the BioBest partners, and it's a pleasure to see you all today for the capacity building workshop that we have organized. Basically, today is really to look at some of the more operational, practical questions that municipalities have. It's sometimes the easier sell is understanding the economics, the environmental benefits. Sure, okay, you can convince a local authority, but then what you need is to say, right, like how do you actually get started? Given your context, given your circumstances locally, which vary so much across Europe, let alone in a country, you need to understand what are the first steps and what are the best steps. There's a whole range of tools out there that can be done. So this is why, as part of the Life BioBest project, we've created two different tools that we'll walk through today with you. The first is this assessment matrix to help understand what are the best kind of policies and tools out there. And in the second part, we'll walk through, the decision support web tool. So as the name says, it's an online tool that you and municipalities can use and waste companies as well to really understand, okay, given our circumstances, our context, what are the best decisions to make that will really improve bio-waste collection, management, and treatment locally. So as a few kind of quick reminders, please, yeah, put your name and organization, sort of rename yourselves just so we know who's here. And then keep yourselves on mute if you can, just to make sure that we can hear the speakers perfectly. But there'll be plenty of time for questions and discussion throughout. So if you have a burning immediate question, you can write it in the chat, but there will be sort of regular stops to have this kind of discussion. So if you can hold until then, that would also be great, just to not interrupt the speakers. And yeah, I think we could kind of maybe get started with a who's in the room. Exactly. So how many people do we have here? 19, great. Very quickly, maybe we could kind of sort of go around and say yeah, perfect. Your name, organization, where you're from, the region, and perhaps kind of in one sentence why you're joining today or what you would want to get out of today. And I will save the BioBest partners for last, perhaps, and pick who just completely on my screen, who is first. So forgive me, but Alice, starting with the letter A, if you want to very briefly introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, Jack. Hi, everyone. So I'm Aligeni from the Compass Plus network in France. It's an organization of municipalities who are promoting reduction, including sorting of bio-waste.
Perfect. Thanks, Alice. Noemi?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Noémie from Zero Waste France, and I'm a project manager and also working on bio-waste topics.
Merci. Thanks, Noemi. Natalia, you're next on my screen. From Natalia Pezenko.
Hello, I'm Natalia. I'm from Ukraine. I work as a project manager in NGO in ecological news. We part Zero Waste Alliance of Ukraine, and we work with bio-waste with our communities, and I'm very happy to be to say.
To be here.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Natalia, and amazing to have, yeah, very always inspired by the work in Ukraine at the moment. Joanna, you're next. Very quickly, want to introduce yourself?
My name is Joanna and I represent Polish Zero Waste Association. I'm here today because I'm curious about what's new in the project, and we are a part of Life BioBest project with other countries. So yeah, really interested in what's next and your tools and some effects of using those tools. So yeah, everything connected with Life BioBest project. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for joining. Yeah, very quickly, just continue to the tour the tab. Emily, you're next on my screen. If you want to introduce yourself, if you can, in 30 seconds, that would be great.
So I'm in Belgium and I work for the space industry, to l'Espacio.
And it's just to get a little bit more insight into this subject.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Yanis, you are next. Yanis Pakakis. I hope I said that right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Yannis. I'm from Greece, National Technical University of Athens. Give me a minute, sorry. And I'm an LCA analyst and researcher, and also working on waste management and waste valorization with the Unit of Environmental Science and Technology with Professor Maria Luisa.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Yanis. Great to have such diverse countries already here. Now, Konstantinos, I don't know if you can speak, introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. My name is Konstantinos Passadis. I am associate of National Technical University of Athens and specifically in the Unit of Environmental Science Technology. I'm working a lot with advanced biofuel production from biowaste, and I get here to hear interesting things about what we do. Thank you.
Pleasure. Great to have you here. Sophia, you're next. If you're able to unmute yourself and say hi, introduce yourself. Perhaps not. Maybe Ria Losha, if you are here, able to say hi as well.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ria from Albania. I'm a master's student in organic agriculture, but I've had the chance to, let's say, have a couple of Erasmus projects on waste management. I'm also currently involved in a minor project right now, so I'm just curious about what's happening. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ria. Farhan from Worms, great to have you here.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, great.
Okay, good. So I'm working for an association called Worms, working on bio-waste in Brussels. And well, I'm interested in everything about the tools you're using. And sorry, my internet connection is not as good as I hope it would be, so I won't put the video, but I hear you.
No problem. Thanks for joining, Farhan. And I wonder, Thomas, if you're able to also quickly say hi, introduce yourself, and then we go Francisco.
Yes, Thomas, I'm from France, from the same company as Alice from Compost Plus Network. And we are here to know more about the tools from and the program of LIFE BioBEST.
Super, nice to meet you. Francisco Ferreira, thanks for joining. You're able to very quickly say hi? Yeah.
Hello everyone. So my name is Francisco. I'm from the City Council of Guimarães. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and to learn from you and to work together. So feel free to reach me if you need anything or talk about anything.
Great. Hi, Francisco. Okay, that leaves us with the ENT team and Michele, the BioBest partners. Mike, Gemma, you want to quickly say hi, or should we wait for the presentations?
No, we can say hi. Yeah. Gemma, do you want to take it away?
Oh, okay. You
Perfect. Okay. Well, my name is Mike Stanavich. Together with my colleague Gemma, we're the project coordinators of the Life BioBest project. Specifically, our organization is End Foundation, which is an environmental consulting firm in the province of Barcelona, Spain. And yeah, I'm looking forward to today's discussion and hearing more about your experiences and seeing how our tools could potentially be useful or improved to increase their utility.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for your interest in this webinar. My name is Gemma. I'm from Catalonia and working as a BioS coordinator with Mike, as mentioned. And we are happy to share with you our findings and our tools today. Thank
you. Rosaria, you want to say hi as well?
Yes, well, I'm Rosaria, also from End Foundation, and I'm going to share with you how the decision support tool is working.
Perfect. Last but not least, Michele.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I think you're not able to see me because I have some issues. Oh no, yeah, now it's working.
It's working.
Yeah, great. And sorry for the delay because actually I had a Google Meet link in your email invitation email, so it was a mess. Sorry for that. Also, my colleagues from CIC are joining right now. So yes, I'm from Italy, from Italian Composting Association, partner of BioBest, of Life BioBest, and involved since 20 years in supporting stakeholders in setting up separate collection of biowaste around the EU. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have a super diverse group then. It's really great to have everyone here. Thank you all for that. We can get started. Mike, if you want to bring the slides back on very quickly. It sounds like a lot of us are familiar with the BioBest project already, which is great. But we could just maybe give a very quick run through of who we are and what we're trying to do. It's made up of 5 partners, as has been mentioned. There's Fondazione ENT, who are the lead partners. There's Cheek from Michele and others from the Italian Composting and Biogas Association, myself, and Nana, who are sort of hosting the webinar today, is Zero Waste Europe in Brussels. And we have 2 other partners, the European Compost Network and the Association of Cities and Regions. And together, we're sort of we've been working on Life BioBest for over 2 years now. And it's, coming to an end soon. I don't know if you want to slip to the next slide, Mike. We could discuss a bit about exactly what we're trying to do. At its core, it's about guiding and really sort of getting more best practices about biowaste management mainstreamed and implemented. We have data that showcases only 26% of food waste captured in the EU. In the EU is captured, I should say, meaning nearly 3 out of 4, sort of 75% of the food waste that we generate still go into landfill incineration. So this is a hugely needed topic. And what we're trying to do in the project is to get sort of guidance for municipalities, for regional authorities, and for the EU about how you can really kind of mainstream and standardize what exactly the best practices are for biowaste management and treatment as well, with a huge focus really on getting the nutrients back to enrich the soils, which are much in need across Europe already. And it's co-funded by the European Union, I should very importantly say. I think the next slide, we are going to just gives a bit about the start of the session. There's a bit of interaction, and this is where I stop and hand over to Mike and Gemma, who are going to lead the first half of today's session. So the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Jack. Okay, so for today, the first part of the session, we're going to go through a quick survey to kind of collect some more information to better understand the contextual factors within each of your kind of jurisdictions, we can say. And with that being said, I say the first survey, but thank you again to everyone who participated in the real first survey, which was disseminated through email. So those answers were very much appreciated. So now kicking it off with today's in live interactive situation, we have prepared a Slido. So I'll just give you each just a few moments to either log into the QR code or go on to slido.com and put in the survey code. All right. As a question, we would just like to ask, which type of entity do you represent? A national authority, regional, municipality, private sector, or research and education? Looks like we have 5 responses so far. Let's see if we can get up to 8 responses or even 10. All right. So if there's anyone who's still entering into the questionnaire, let me know. But let's see the answers. So it looks like the vast majority are from research and education. And so with that, It's changing slightly with the next vote. And the next one is municipality, private sector, and other. In fact, we have, it looks like, no regional or national authorities in the room. Okay, and so for the next question, which country are you joining us from? Or rather, which is your jurisdiction? All right, so far we have strong representation from Belgium and France, as well as Poland, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Portugal. And Ukraine. And a new country called Sapin, which we can assume is Spain as well. And the Democratic Republic of Congo. Oh wow. Canary Islands. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so 15 responses. The next question. Now we're going to kind of zoom in closer into your specific jurisdiction's situation. So we're going to present a number of different contextual factors. And by contextual factors, they're just kind of circumstances that we could say situations in your jurisdiction. So the first one is the relevance of traffic and roads, or rather, to what extent do these kind of impede the bio-waste management in your area? And we're thinking about road characteristics, snow, ice conditions, congestion. As you develop bio-waste systems in your jurisdiction, to what extent does this impact? And on the scale of 1 not being relevant and 5 being very relevant, so far it looks like road traffic and circulation issues are a little bit lower rated. We're between 2 and 3 and sometimes 4. And so this is to say that this contextual factor perhaps is not the priority. It is not on the very top of being considered. As perhaps urgent or necessary in comparison to others. I'll just give another moment for any last folks to weigh in. And as we go through this, so we're going to go through a number of these different kind of assess the relevance questions. So we can keep in mind that for this first one, for traffic and roads, we have it at a 2, between a 2 and 3, more or less, with 1 slowly creeping up. So we have a low kind of relevance here. Okay, so continuing to the next one, we ask you to assess the relevance of extreme weather conditions. So to what extent does your jurisdiction have extreme weather conditions present, whether that be extreme heat in the summer or extreme cold in the winter, extreme humidity, extreme ice, etc. Let's see those results.
Mike, question.
Yes, please.
Can you elaborate what you mean by assess the relevance of extreme? So are you saying, yeah, can you reword that question?
Yeah, of course. So what we're looking for here is to understand to what extent does your municipality have extreme weather conditions? Is this something...
Okay, not about taking it seriously, it's whether we even have it.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So for example, if we think maybe about Helsinki would most definitely have extreme weather conditions, extreme cold, and that we'd want to assess that relevance and weigh it heavily. But so far from the results, we're at 14, and it looks like we represent jurisdictions with fairly moderate climates, in which there is not an extreme weather pattern or conditions that affect kind of day-to-day life in the seasons of extremes. Okay, moving on to the next one, population density. So again, with that question in mind that was just proposed, To what extent does your municipality have extreme population density, high levels of population density? And we can think about this, I mean, perhaps in terms of exact numbers, or if you're visualizing or mentalizing your jurisdiction, are there high density apartment buildings, high-rise apartment buildings, or are the houses more spread out across large swaths of land? And so here we're seeing the tables turn a little bit. So here we have a high population, a high relevance of population density. So far, based on 13 votes, we're at 4 and 5 being the predominant relevance levels. So later on, when we discuss each of these kind of sections in more detail, this will be one of them that we'll open the floor to and want to discuss in more depth, most definitely. Okay, and now on the opposite extreme, so we just had population density in terms of thinking about high apartment buildings, high rise, etc. On the opposite side, to what extent does your jurisdiction have isolated or dispersed housing, or rather the level of rural life? Is it high? Is it low? Very relevant would mean, of course, that it would be a very dispersed municipality with dispersed housing and commercial activities, and not relevant would mean that there is not much dispersion in terms of commercial housing, residential, etc. So from the responses, we're looking, the jurisdictions represented here are mostly urban. We can say that with one being highest voted is not relevant. The majority of places have low impact of dispersion and isolated activities. And now tourism. To what extent does your jurisdiction experience seasonal, year-round, short stay tourism? All right, so like population density, it looks like tourism is a very relevant contextual factor across the municipalities represented or the jurisdictions represented. And of course, yeah, as we'll later explain, tourism very much affects biowaste management as it makes it a little less predictable and changes the capacity levels of the collection and treatments of the systems, etc. So here, once again, we have a high, with 14 votes in, we have a high kind of sway towards very relevant of tourism. And what about wild animals? Are there wild animals such as boars, bears, and kind of predatory birds in your jurisdiction? And we can even think about rats in this case. If there's commonly rat infestations or rat sightings that are experienced. So far, this is not relevant, not a very relevant contextual factor. But 4 is creeping up.
I think there's a big difference between like a bear and a rat. This is
most definitely true. Or maybe, yeah, you know, thousands of rats or just one bear, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the reason why we asked this question is because, of course, in regions where boars and bears especially are present, or birds that are kind of can intervene in the collection system, and I'm from North America, so most common there are raccoons. These animals do affect the bio-waste management scheme, and so they must be considered. But it seems like today, based on the jurisdictions represented, this is not very relevant, but there are some jurisdictions that I'll be curious to hear about from later that have, you know, rated it on the fairly relevant scale. And continuing, we just have a few more of these and then we'll continue the discussion. What about non-native populations? Are there resident foreign nationals and university students in high proportion in your municipality, region, or jurisdiction? Wonderful. Well, we have 10 votes in so far, so it looks like this is kind of a spread across all the relevance levels. Okay, so yeah, we're really 3 and 5, somewhat relevant, very relevant, and even 1 at not relevant. So we have a kind of an even spread here of the relevance of non-native populations. And what about diverse waste producers? Are there a lot of household green waste producers or landscaping companies or commercial activities that may trim trees or create the famous Horeca waste with commercial activities? And on the opposite side of this, if it's not relevant, it'd be mean to say that there's predominantly one kind of flow, whether it be residential waste or commercial waste or green waste, etc., as opposed to very relevant a diversity in those kind of waste producers. And so here we're in the very middle. We're at somewhat relevant with the majority voting for number 3. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, this might be the last one, which is the proximity of biowaste facilities. So here, to what extent are the biowaste facilities close or very far, close being 1, or very far being 5 from your jurisdiction? And we might think, in other words, about the accessibility of the biowaste facilities. Are they accessible? Okay, and so here we have we're looking mostly at the middle ground, so not very close and not very far at number 3. And then with 33%, we're at 1, which is and that's going down at very close, which is a good indicator that they are accessible. Okay, and so with that, we'd like to kind of transition to the Life BioBest assessment matrix. But before I do that, I'd like to say that first exercise is really kind of we were hoping to be a generative contemplation of your jurisdiction, your municipality or entity, and how these different contextual factors may influence and how we can prioritize them and think about them in coordination with each other. Of course, as we went through the survey, it's natural that responses start to kind of qualify or categorize based on previous responses, that there's some kind of like internal sway. But in general, we're looking to kind of capture the situation in each municipality. And so thinking about the ones that were most highly rated, we would like to kind of draw your attention to the assessment matrix, and where we have a number of different priority recommendations and priority actions followed by specific recommendations based on each of those categories that we just went through. So thinking about the responses from terrain, roads, conditions, and public spaces, we actually had based on the survey results, fairly low relevance of this. And once again, this is all just talking about circulation. Are trucks, are citizens able to circulate the streets fluidly, easily, safely in order to collect waste? And so if there's a change in your municipality, and this does become more priority issue, we would like to draw your attention to some of the recommendations we have here. But for sake of time, we'll continue on to the ones that had more high relevance. Climate also did not have high relevance, but this is once again those extreme weather months and how biowaste systems can be modified and improved to be more suitable for those extreme weather conditions, whether it's biowaste freezing to the bin in extreme winter, or biowaste producing kind of gross odors, unsavory odors, we could say, in the extreme summer months when it heats up and it decomposes at a faster rate. In terms of population density, so this was our first contextual factor that had a high relevance rate. And so here we're thinking about the urban kind of environment and how different biowaste management schemes might be included in one single municipality based on those different kind of population density numbers. So in terms of priority actions, what we recommend is kind of like a host of different, like a triage care to improve biowaste density. And that is based in creating sound strategies, whether they be in finances or implementation, and making those strategies based on best practices that are existing across Europe already. For example, in the case of Milan is a very famous reference point for population density because it is, of course, a major city that has championed biowaste management. Additionally, we're thinking here about population density in terms of monitoring, establish a system of monitoring with set parameters, and increasing the public participation and financing for that outreach service to educate and to bring on board citizens into the system. Specific recommendations here are to study the traffic patterns and monitoring information in different areas, different neighborhoods of the urban environment in order to better to create a system that better suits that area. And in doing so, we might prioritize collection during low traffic periods to take advantage of reduced traffic and pedestrians. As we think too about the population dense area and the land availability, biowaste transfer stations and biowaste treatment facilities are, of course, must be considered, and those must be strategically prioritized and strategically kind of implemented so that waste is not being transferred very long distances, that there's a high accessibility of both those transfer stations and the treatment facilities. What other ones here might be exactly what I was saying before with population dense areas too. There's a need to consider each individual neighborhood, and so we might consider implementing collection schemes specific to buildings and housing types, which might be different, of course, when you move to a different block or a different part of the city. Okay, in general, I'll stop myself from going through every single one of these, but we'd like to, of course, draw your attention to this as a resource as you consider and devise plans for your population dense areas. Urban dispersion, of course, is servicing those areas that are farther away from the urban environment. And those according to the survey, were a little bit, it wasn't such a priority, so I won't spend much time here. But again, what we're looking to do here is to think about the environment and think about the housing stock and the distances traveled and create guidelines and using guidelines and best practices to develop strategies and implementation plans that would work well in these jurisdictions. And one that we didn't go through before, but it must be considered when we devise kind of biowaste systems, is income inequality. So as we can understand, individuals and communities facing economic hardship, biowaste management may certainly not be their priority. But the biowaste system and the public sphere must do their best to provide those folks resources and facilitate their participation to the extent possible. So whether that be specific outreach services, at-home separation, guidance and materials, And then establishing a monitoring system with set parameters as well would be helpful to onboard and make sure that those folks are participating well, and that this is not an added burden. In terms of resident, migrant, and non-resident population, this was, according to the survey, fairly had one of those even spreads. And like the previous one about income inequality, we can think about this as prioritizing reaching the different kind of populations within a jurisdiction through diverse outreach activities, whether that be at a university or within a community, a migrant community, for example. And in those kind of circumstances, our specific recommendations include finding representatives from that community who are interested in biowaste and working with them to help give access and improve the participation of their community. And of course, adapting outreach materials to the language or to the culture of that area. And when newcomers do come to town, to working with them to onboard them and into the recycling program so that their participation is both high quality and high quantity. Populations with reduced mobility is another contextual factor that should be considered, especially in kind of smaller municipalities and in neighborhoods where there might be an old folks home or the different kind of senior and social centers. And so here we're thinking about both onboarding them into the program and also making sure that the program or the model is accessible to them. And so this includes making sure there's sufficient space on sidewalks for the passage of wheelchairs, and make sure that the bins aren't obstructing the path or creating unnecessary obstacles in kind of the urban environment. And making sure that the bins can be opened and easily accessed through perhaps like a foot pedal or a lift lid, something that is accessible by all people. Here's another one, the tourism level that was highly rated on the survey. And at the expense of sounding a little bit repetitive here, this too has to do a lot with reaching people where they are. And by that, I mean that the biowaste system at its best will be able to produce education or provide educational materials to these diverse populations. And more than the diverse populations that are visiting the area, but the populations that are managing the tourism. So at the camping sites, at the hotels, at the resorts, in the city centers, providing extensive resources to make sure that tourists can later make the right decision in terms of how to recycle their biowaste. And making sure that those systems are in place, both on an organizational level and on a technical level, so that there is a strong system in place to capture high quantity and high quality biowaste. And once again, this too should all be written into strategic waste plans and made a reference to by guidelines and best practices. Okay, and then in terms of wildlife and pests, this is more of a technical kind of consideration for those municipalities that have, especially mammals that might enter into the waste bins. So to make those collection bins chew-proof and having them with latching lids, and to kind of monitor the appearance of wildlife and pests through call centers, etc. But yeah, given the priority, we might not spend too much time here. Thinking about the diverse type of producers, this again necessitates a kind of like an overarching consideration of organizational and technical capabilities, because with the diverse a diverse type of producer, there are many different kind of feedstock categories being collected, whether that be green waste, residential waste, commercial waste, and those high quantities and different treatment processes at times necessitate exactly that, an operational system that is highly capable of managing those distinct flows. And for that, monitoring is very important, and data tracking systems to kind of ensure that if there's seasonal changes or certain neighborhoods that produce more garden waste, that those solutions are specifically targeting those areas. And when necessary or when relevant, individual or home composting can be applied, and always ensuring that there is monitoring and kind of professionals that monitor that system. Okay, and lastly is the availability and proximity of waste facilities. Once again, here the idea is that the land access and the land permissions for these kind of facilities, of course, can be a barrier, or can be difficult to obtain, in the way that close to urban centers, there's a disinterest in having them, but at the same time, they must be accessible so that the waste is not traveling long distances to its final kind of treatment location. And so once again, in these assessment matrices, we provide priority actions followed by specific recommendations that we encourage you to check out based on your jurisdiction relevance of each of these contextual factors. Because in some here, these contextual factors affect all different stages of the bio-waste cycle, whether that be the separate collection, public participation, collection routes, etc., the treatment type, the treatment in the waste transfer stations, and the ability to make a quality output that is marketable. And then to do all of these things, there's the application of instruments. So once again, these communication engagement campaigns, taxation and finances, as well as specific models that can be used in specific areas to increase the collection of quality and quantity of compost and bio-waste. So all that being said, I hope I haven't bored you to tears here, but all of these contextual factors are very important to analyze and to consider in each jurisdiction, and they have a high kind of, with careful attention to them and their effect, the goal is to improve the bio-waste collection system. And just as a shout out to the document itself, it's published on our website. And it includes, it hosts each of the different barriers in terms of legal, administrative, organizational, economic, and technical. And then it links those different barriers directly to recommendations. And it includes kind of 6 theoretical cases to compare to real life scenarios that perhaps might be a basis of comparison for your own jurisdiction. And lastly, the specific technical recommendations linked to the contextual factors. Okay, with that, we'd like to jump into just a little bit of open discussion. We have more questions to go through, just a few. And so to kick it off, it looks like I might have lost control of the screen. Let me reshare. Okay, to kick it off, I kindly ask that you rejoin the Slido through this QR code or through the number here. And related to everything I've just said about these recommendations and ways to improve your bio-waste system based on these contextual factors, just, generally speaking, what keywords come to mind? Whatever keyword, just to have kind of a generative exercise following each of those recommendations and contextual factors. Okay, so far we have behavioral change, small inaccessible streets, sensibilization, cost efficiency. Okay. So I'm seeing a beginning trend here of how to reach the population where they are, and how to onboard them into the collection facility, the collection system, so that their participation is of high quality and quantity. and we have other ones about this pest control and unpleasant odors, perhaps thinking more about how to like destigmatize the waste management and how to influence people to participate more so as opposed to separating themselves from the topic. And would anyone like to jump in and explain, say a little bit more about their answer? Perhaps this, yeah, Michele.
No, just quickly jump in about the behavioral change issue because I was the one posting it. Because, many of these boundary conditions and external factors are really dependent on the level of consciousness of citizens and whatever other, sensitization, you use the word sensibilization and so on. So any kind of barriers can be easily or maybe more easily overcome if you have in place a good sensitization approach. So that should be the key as a preliminary step to be taken in all situations. And this involves all arguments. I mean, narrow streets or whatever, I don't have space in my kitchen or whatever argument can be easily or maybe more easily and not technically overcome using these kind of techniques.
Thank you for that. Exactly. So kind of on dismantling some of these common arguments in terms of participation is a clear priority. Anyone else would like to explain their response? There'll be more opportunities. Yeah, Francisco. We might have lost him.
Hello. Yeah, I was just trying to make the sound work. Yeah, I want to clustering like it's sorry, it's one of the words that came up to my mind because I think that when it comes to making sure that our systems work, and I believe it's also one of the things you mentioned is that we need to have like strategic action considering like all the different circumstances and situations that we are in. We need to work and to develop a strategy for eco channels, to develop a strategy for the high density areas, for the dispersed areas, because particularly we also here in Guimarães have a really dispersed territory, so we need to try to tackle like solutions in a different and like more like spread it out way, like always trying to evaluate things on. So I believe that's an important word because we need to be constantly studying and making sure that our initiatives are covering up like what we actually need. Yeah.
Exactly. And as you might have noticed when I was passing through those different tables of the assessment matrix, what you said there about the strategic waste plans and constantly assessing and analyzing one's own system, that's one that is almost in every single table because there's some of these very core recommendations that irregardless of the contextual factor, the management system must be able to do kind of a self-reflection about both the data on a qualitative and quantitative level to improve the system. Okay, well, thank you for those answers and for the participation. Let's continue to the next question. To get a sense of overall, how applicable are these recommendations for you? Very much so, you can't wait to try them, still skeptical, or not very applicable? All right. So far, there's a positive response that they're very applicable. And here I would like to invite someone to if feel free to speak if you responded not very applicable or still skeptical, just to voice how you answered this and what kind of recommendations would be more suitable. And on that same on that same line, if someone who responded very much so, if you'd like to explain a little bit more your response, it'd be wonderful to open up discussion. Okay, well, perhaps we'll continue on then to the next question. And this question might just take a few additional seconds. Please rank order the following contextual factors based on the overall impact on your jurisdiction. So thinking about that first exercise, the first Slido we went through, where we ranked each of the contextual factors. In your specific case, how would you rank the importance and the impact of these contextual factors in your jurisdiction? And we may, yeah, thinking back to those responses from the past, population density and tourism seem to be the most impactful of the contextual factors, followed by resident foreign nationals and non-resident populations.
Mike, maybe a quick question regarding the documents and their translatability. Will there be sort of the opportunity to translate it into local languages? Going back perhaps to the previous question about the applicability. For example, I know with a couple of the colleagues here from France, the level of English spoken in French municipalities, but I imagine it's across all Europe is can be quite limited. So having this in different languages, is that yeah, something that we can work towards perhaps, do you think?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to speak about that. So the good news is that we are working to translate some of our core documents from the Life BioBest project into European languages other than English. So that includes the EU comprehensive guidance, the executive summary of the policy brief, and the summary of the guidelines. And those documents, although they're not the specific assessment matrix, they contain many of the same recommendations and the priority actions that this document does. So we recommend that you check them out. And hopefully, if possible, we're eager to translate as many documents to local languages as possible. Okay, and in terms of this question's response, we're looking at a reflection of what we learned before, that population density and tourism are high contenders for impactful contextual factors. And last but not least, we'd just like to ask if there's any additional solutions that you've employed that were missing from the list here. You might also think about this question as a recommendation. What recommendation would you provide other municipalities or jurisdictions? And so the first one is incentives for recycling, touching upon kind of the economic, financial, tools that can incentivize better participation in practices. SATE, which is save as you throw, another tool, financial tool. Multi-language communications. So this is more along the lines of onboarding the public, as well as information campaigns to onboard the public and to generate more participation with higher quality, and convince decision makers by showcasing best practices. This one is touching upon kind of the political apparatus and legal administrative, making those laws and making those regulations so the decision makers are in favor. Communication long term, of course, the continuous communication campaigns. Accurate alignment. Wonderful. So yeah, I'm seeing a trend here of the communication and economic incentives. So prioritizing those as two tools to improve the bio-waste system. Okay, for sake of time, I'm just going to continue here. Sorry if I'm cutting off anyone in their mid-response. Feel free to submit it nonetheless. And yes, with that all being said, here's a final question, I think, from this section, which is, in assessments and reports, have you analyzed the impact of these contextual factors and other barriers in your jurisdiction? Or rather, has this work already been done? Have you already done this work? Wonderful. And so far it looks like there's a high percentage that have done it, whether frequently or infrequently. Now it looks like almost everyone infrequently. And so this goes back to Francisco's comment and question from before about these strategic waste plans and the implementation of them on an annual, biannual basis. Okay, so with that, I will pass the floor to Gemma, who's going to discuss the decision support trees, which begins with a self-assessment checklist, the ones that we sent out via email.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. This second part is focused on the second document that we mentioned, that is the decision support tree. And we started this document with this first assessment of the core actions that BioBest project identified as key to improve bio-waste management. So we would like to share this list of topics. So that's why we try to send in advance this survey, and we get some answers, not a lot, but we can discuss, have this overview of key core actions and discuss the results that we get. So for regional authorities, we don't receive any feedback, but we can discuss the feedbacks from local authorities. All of the recommendations and key actions are divided into different categories. We have the first one that is the umbrella category of legal and administrative instruments and measures. Here we ask for the application, the underway or not application of these actions, instruments, and we have two key elements here: effective local ordinances and norms that is quite applied. In this case, it's a typical instrument that is applied, so it's good for the implementation and they have a umbrella legal framework at local level. And then we have the second key issue, that is penalties when there is a problem or not compliance. So in this case, it seems that there is some gap here because it's not very applied, this instrument, and is one of the things that should be improved. The legal framework should be complemented with these penalties in case of any issues. The second category is economic and financial instruments and measures. Here we have three elements. We have pay-as-you-throw schemes or variable charges applied to users of the collection system. Here, it seems that there is a gap too with these elements, and they are key to incentivize users and producers of biowaste to participate, but it seems that there is a low level of application of this instrument that is one of the key instruments that we promote in the framework of the project. Also, the charges that local municipalities or local entities apply to cover the cost of the service should cover the 100% of the cost to provide a good service. But in this case, it seems that there are diverse situations, but we don't find any application in the framework of these answers. And finally, we have access to grants and use of tax refunds amounts to improve management. That is also important to have this money flow to invest and improve and cover part of the cost. And it seems that there are one answer that are applying this instrument, but in some cases they are introducing or are not applied. So this is an important issue if we have these landfill and incineration taxes to get the money that we collect with these taxes to return this money to local authorities to improve or introduce biowaste management. So this economic scheme is important to balance biowaste in front of residual waste. So we can go to organizational elements. Here we have 4 elements. Strategic local waste management plans, as mentioned before, it's the previous thing that we have to apply to start with these management plans, and this is an applied instrument. And also decision makers are key, so they have to be involved, and these advocacy strategies are also important. So in this case, the answers are positive. We have the comprehensive monitoring information that, as we mentioned, we need to cover this monitoring and follow-up of the information and the results. So it's also a measure that we apply, and it's spread. But we have also campaigns and participation, the last one, and as mentioned, is also important, and it should be continuously applied. And in this case, we have also positive answers in this last instrument, for this last instrument. And finally, we have the technical elements, the technical measures. We have a long list here. There are different cases, but it seems that individualized models, collection models that are key to get good results and follow up the participation of the users are implemented, so it's a good news. We have also the importance of the good to implement or carry out a good service with quality. In this case, it seems that this measure is underway or applied, so also positive. Then we have technical guidance and support for technicians and operators. That is something in the middle. There are diverse situations, but it should be also improved because they are key to implement and to get good results in the framework of local management. Then related to the previous one, we have this skill set and training that is also important, but it's something that is in different stages in these cases that we get from the survey. And proper functioning and tracking of home composting. When home composting is applied, should be monitored to get results and to promote the good functioning of this system, especially in dispersed areas. And in some cases there are this application, but there are a lack also in some others. Then we have monitoring producers' delivery. The quality is important and also the quantity, so we have to closely monitor these contributions of the users. So in this case, there is a gap, it seems, with the answers, but it's important and it's quite related to individualized models. So we promote in the framework of biowaste project this type of management. Also, we have planning and support of the treatment network and capacity. it's important to have this network of facilities, and especially if they are close, it's better for the management and for the cost. So it seems that this is a situation that appears in the feedback from the survey. So it's important. And finally, regarding facilities, we also need to implement quality assurance schemes that promotes the quality and the trust in the products, especially compost and digestate. So it seems that they are implemented. And finally, as mentioned before in the previous part, we need to assess and check the contextual factors to adapt and to implement a model that can overcome these contextual factors. And in this case, the answers are quite positive. So this is the overview, and this is the list of core actions that we promote. And that's why we would like that the users of this checklist can assess the situation and to identify the gaps and the problems to apply the proposals, the measures that can improve the biowaste management. So finally, we introduce a final question to assess the usability of this tool to get the feedback, and it seems that it's quite positive. So we are happy to receive this feedback, and we are going to close this output of the project as soon as possible and launch the document, and you will get the tool, and you can use the tool whenever you need. Okay, so related to this self-assessment, we create a second part in this document that we mentioned, and we have the decision support tree. This is the scheme of the document and the way that we promote the usability of this document. We have this first self-assessment where we identify the core actions per categories. Then we identify these problems, weaknesses or gaps, and then we go to check the barriers that are related to these gaps, these problems. And when we get this second assessment of barriers, we can go to our documents, to our reports, LIFE BioBest reports, to identify and find solutions and best practices that we promote in the framework of the project to improve and to know more details about the best way to implement biowaste management, and also not only the technical issues, but also the complementary instruments regarding legal, organizational, and economic instruments. So we can show you in the next slide the list of legal and administrative barriers that we identify that you can check, and then go to the list of deliverables and sections where you can find the information to know more about these problems and how to solve and overcome this situation. The first one is that the targets and the mandates are not cascading down. That is a problem, that we have a framework that is not well applied when it comes to local level. So here we have 4 elements: low institutional prioritization of biowaste management. We have also environmental and agricultural policies that are not connected. So it's a problem, the coordination of different policies. We have a legal framework that is not aligned with local and regional strategies in some cases, and we can see that sometimes these modifications of the legal framework can affect negatively to the management at local level or regional level. So for all of these elements, we provide some solutions in the documents. We have to say that this scheme that is in a Word, we are creating a Excel tool to facilitate the navigation and to connect all the parts. So you can go through all of the tabs and jump from into each one of them to see the different options and the connections between gaps barriers and solutions. The second part of the legal and administrative barriers is the lack of effective binding policies and targets. So it's important to have these targets, and we are asking for that. So it's important in the project. One of the first priority is to implement or to define these targets for waste management. Also, we have this bad application of these best practices of the management models. So the policy should include these best practices and define the way to implement them. Then we have the lack of inputs in terms of quality and standards regarding the treatment part, and it's also a problem because we need to get to collect good quality bio-waste, and also the follow-up of the information that is key, and the connection of this knowledge and information data along the chain, no? And finally, as we mentioned before, we need penalties that are covered in the legal framework. Jumping to economic barriers, we have a long list, but we try to enforce the good use of funds. We want to have this economic support. We promote this economic support, and also the importance of the management, the friendly use of these grants. That is important to get the money and be able to implement and to use the money and to justify this money. Also, it's important to have this budget, this money flows that is aligned with the real needs of the waste management objective. Additionally, we need these charges, as mentioned before. We need facilities, so we need this investment in facilities. So there is this economic scheme that should be important in the framework of these proper management models. And finally, we need to analyze and to follow up also the quality. That is another important issue to improve the circularity of bio-waste management. So we also have to cover this follow-up, this work in terms of data and quality assessment. Regarding other economic barriers, because we have here that the main problem, or the basic problem here, that is that the residual waste is economically better, no? In this sense, we have that bio waste is expensive and is not competitive. So we need some rebalance. We have to rebalance, no? To balance this situation. So we need to implement these economic instruments, financial instruments in terms of these landfill and incineration taxes that should be reassessed to increase the amounts and to promote this economic penalty, no, to residual waste. Also, with this money that we collect with incineration and landfill taxes, we can provide these refunds schemes to local authorities to cover the cost of bio-waste management, because then we can rebalance the situation and have this money to start the implementation and the construction of facilities. That is also important, to start with the implementation, but also with the facilities, proximity facilities. And finally, we need to compensate or promote the use of compost. So we need a market and some incentive to promote this usability. When it comes to organizational barriers, we define these 4 elements in the framework of poor institutional organization and some limited capacity regarding staff and work in this organization and coordination issues. So we have the lack of local regional management plans in some cases, but sometimes it's not the lack, maybe it's the approach of these plans that is the problem. We have also lack of staff, that is, we need hands, we need people to work for the waste management. And also we have some guidance and skills. So it's important to cover all of these elements. as I mentioned, with a kind of puzzle, with a kind of combination of instruments to get this final scheme that gets good results. Yeah, the second part of organizational barriers, as we mentioned, that are also important, is these elements of coordination among entities at different levels. So we promote here this advocacy, to involve decision makers and other representatives. We also need to reduce the complexity of the permits and administrative procedures. So sometimes it's a problem. As mentioned, data is key, and the coordination of data is also key, and to create KPIs that we promote in the project. We have also the issue of staff coordination and protocols to coordinate the different entities, because there are different entities and agents involved in biowaste management. So it's important to create this scheme of coordination. And also we have to involve the last part of the chain, that is the agricultural sector and the users of the final product, that is compost and digestate. So everyone should be involved. But we also mentioned that we should involve local citizens, and also users, Oreca producers of biowaste. So this is the scale of the involvement should be at in considering all the levels. And finally, we have this limited, as mentioned. Yes, I jumped to the next one. So to involve local producers, we need, as mentioned before, in terms of measures that we promote, the importance of communication, continuous communication, the monitoring of the performance, and also to incentivize with financial and economic instruments, as we receive the comment from one of the pools, these paid and discounts and variable taxes to involve also local producers, because we have to think that they are the first managers of biowaste, because they separate at home and participate in the system. So for each one of these elements, we have these solutions in the documents and the guidelines, very, very detailed, and so with some good practices related to show you the best way to implement. Yeah. And jumping to technical barriers, as mentioned, best practices, guidance, training, it's important, and also monitoring and checking the evolution of the performance to implement improvements, and also to overcome the possible problems. Yeah, another part is this, as we mentioned, we need to improve the type of models. We don't need inefficient models. We need individualized models with that can avoid low coverage. That this model should take care of the contamination of the quality of the biowaste collected. We also need these models that identify the users to follow up the performance, and also to apply this economic incentive. So we need this public participation in the framework of these models, and of course we need to take care of be aware of the best way to perform, or other best practices that can be useful for our case, and we can take the best the best schemes that can be implemented in our territory. Okay, this will be easy, because this refers to the long list of and explanation that Mike's provide regarding overcoming contextual factors. So here is the list of contextual factors, and we have the matrix to provide you the solutions, or the possible solutions, so we can skip. And finally, we have the part of treatment that is also important, because it's we need to get this quality flow, and then we need to avoid inefficient treatment capacities. We need to plan the capacities and to invest in these capacities, because as we are going to implement or improve the quantities, we need to cover the treatment of these quantities. We have to work regarding the local management and avoid these long distances. The control of qualities, because then the rejects are lower, so it's important. And then we need investment, we need this planning. And regarding home composting, that is another way to locally treat the biowaste. We need to implement a proper scheme, and also a scheme that includes some follow-up to ensure the good results. And finally, as mentioned, we need this coverage of quality assurance schemes to promote the quality of all the process, the quality of the outputs, and also to promote the usability, or the application to the soil of the products of the biological treatment. So we try to be very detailed with the elements that are key, and we try to provide you with some good solutions and proper solutions. And maybe if we have time, maybe we are a bit late, no, Mike? So let me show you 1 minute, no, or not. We can jump to the discussion maybe, because I would like to show you the Excel that includes all of this information and all the tabs that we find that you can navigate through the self-assessment, jump to the barriers, and then check all the documents that we provide linked to each barrier to have a friendly, user-friendly tool to assess and to get the solutions, in each case. But maybe we can jump to the Slido, maybe.
Okay, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, all of this information and tools will be ready in a few days, so we can send you the direct link with the document and also the Excel that we are creating with all of this information and this interactive Excel. Yeah. And this second part, we want to receive from your side some feedback, because one of the objective of the project is to validate this tool and to get these inputs regarding the possibility to improve or to consider other options. So we prepare this Slido, and the first question is to conclude the discussion. The question is related to biowaste barriers. What keywords come to your mind as we create before some kind of brainstorming about issues related to solve barriers, to implement good instruments?
I'll just jump in here too to mention that, like the questions from the previous one where we asked about these keywords about biowaste recommendations, it's to be expected that we'll see some of the same topics come up here in this discussion of biowaste barriers, especially since one of the last questions was about your recommendations and your solutions. So yeah, thinking of keeping that in mind.
Yeah. So the barriers, we have a long list of barriers, and you probably know that you find these situations these daily situations, but the issue of the distance it's a problem, and we found that there are lack of facilities and close facilities nowadays in some regions. We also find the accessibility. I understand to the collection system, it's an issue. So maybe individualized models can provide the solution of the proximity and easy participation. Also, the communication and sensitization is also crucial, no, here. And of course, we need the involvement, as we mentioned, as the first managers of bio waste, to involve citizens with this behavioral change, no, that it's important, applying economic incentives to also this information and this continuously communication activities that can empower them, no, to continue with and to participate in the system. Some more answers. Okay. So regarding the next question is, what additional barriers have you encountered in your case, or the most important ones for you, or the most complicated in your case? Yeah, our list is quite long, but maybe you will find, or you are facing some specific barriers. Yeah, the behavioral change, and we know that this is a long story, issue. Yeah, more comments about barriers? Yeah, behavioral change is the only one. Okay, yeah, yeah. So the tools to monitor, yes, it's important because there are a lot of data involved in biowaste management, and with some kind of tools, and also coordinated tools, no, as we mentioned, that can coordinate the information among the different levels of agents. So lack of funding, yeah, it's a priority, and we are asking for this coverage, and we propose the introduction of these tax refunds schemes to get money, because, as you know, biowaste is one of the flows that are not covered by an EPR, extended producer responsibility. So we need to introduce complementary incentive and economic flow to promote biowaste and make biowaste more competitive. So it's important. So save as you throw. It's a positive, economic incentive that is also in the framework of the proposal of variable taxes. Yeah, the follow-up of the agents is important. Okay, the follow-up, the monitoring scheme, it's also important. Yeah, lack of budget for communication. Yeah, communication should be there all the time, and we promote this continuous service of communication and specific and good design implementation campaigns. So yeah, all of these elements are key, and we provide some solutions and some best practices regarding all of these instruments and all of these elements. So we invite you to check the documents, and if you have some doubts also, we can try to solve them afterwards. Yeah, based on your experience and jurisdiction, please rank the applicability of the trees. Yeah, we want to get this feedback because we need to confirm that they are properly defined, and also they will be useful, and you can use them easily. Yeah, economic and financial part is the most interesting, it seems, followed by legal, organizational, and technical. Yeah, but we are waiting for more answers. Yeah, as we mentioned, should be a puzzle of instruments. So sometimes we need all of them, but in some cases, maybe the economic part is the most complicated element. But yeah, also there is a lack of organizational scheme sometimes, so everything is connected, and we should find this balance between instruments and put all of them together and coordinate them. So yeah, the final picture is economic, legal, organizational, and technical. So fine, yeah, economic is the best, the worst, I mean. Will you use these decision support trees? Would you like to use them? You think that they are they are proper in your case? You can use by yourself, or you will need technical assistance to use them? Yeah, well, the answer is positive. With some technical assistance in some cases. So it's nice to know that you are going to use them or can be useful for you. Yeah, maybe it's also growing up. Yeah, okay, the picture is quite good. Yeah, but yeah, we encourage you to try to assess your situation and try to find solutions. So yeah, nice to moving again. Yeah, yes, it's the best. Yes. We can wait for a second. More answers? Okay. And before this conclusion, would you like to intervene or to provide some specific comments about the assessment, the decision support trees? Are you planning to use them? Are you going to need them for some specific situation, some launching of bio-waste management, some improvement? Any comments?
Just to complement what Gemma's the question, in the future too, if there's a moment when you find yourself with the document, or if you have any other kind of encounter with the document in the future, feel free to reach out to us. It'd be very interesting to hear about your experience.
Yeah, for sure. And as I mentioned, we can provide you directly with the link of the document and the tool once we make the document public. Yeah, that will be very soon. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, we can skip. And finally, to close this section, we have some conclusions. As I mentioned, we need this puzzle of instruments. We are facing different barriers and contextual factors. So we have to assess the situation in each case, in each municipality region, to define the best solutions, the best scheme. Thinking about individualized models, but also thinking about the economic flow and the economic balance. Also, we need to involve decision makers and all the agents of the chain, especially the users of the service, the producers, I mean. So we encourage you to check our guidance, our bio-waste guidelines. We have several ones, so about collection, economic instruments, governance, the part of treatment and quality, communication and engagement also is an important part. And also we have the final guidance more addressed to EU level, but yeah, you will find there a lot of elements and interesting information and solutions that can be applied in your case. So thank you for the attention, and we can now move to the next part, to the break. We have 10 minutes break, so if you want to rest a bit, and we can come back in 10 minutes. Okay, so thank you for your attention.
Should we start to welcome people back, hopefully for the last 45 minutes of the session? Hope you had a good break. Thank you, Mike and Gemma, for the very interesting overview at the start. Yeah, should we get started? Should we wait a few more people? We can get started, I think, for a bit shorter time. Great. I don't know if Rosaria, you want to start quick, or if you want, or Mike and Gemma, you want to give a bit of a introduction perhaps to the decision support web tool. But
Well, I can, I hope that everyone get a really nice break because it was a really intense session, the first one. So just breathe. Well, the idea of this presentation is actually guide the participant into the web tool, okay? So this web tool is a way to simulate case for modeling and evaluating bio-waste management scenario. So in what I'm going to present to you, I will give you first an overview of the decision support tool. Then we are going to build together the simulation in a real case study. So I will show you the data needed for accurate assessment, setting up scenario by using case study, related data, or existing library, and generative result. And then we are going to check the possible application and limitation of the decision support tool. So let's start. So the LIFE BioBest decision support tool is an upgraded version of a tool that was developed in the decisive in another European project, the decisive project, and so it was upgraded. The first step to use it, and I hope that Nana is going to send in the chat the link to the decision support tool. To use it, first you have to log in. So you have to create a user, a password, as any kind of platform you have to register. Then what is important, really, really important before to start, you have to read the user manual. We tried to make it more friendly was possible, this web tool, but since we wanted to have results that were really representing the case study that you want to study, you really need to read the manual to understand how it works, how to use this tool. So the objective of the tool is supporting decision when evaluating the performance of bio-waste management. How? Providing a first assessment of the performance of municipal bio-waste management system, considering all the stage from the generation until the final disposal. How we are going to do that? We are using a defined set of performance indicators. With this tool, you can also perform comparative assessment of different management system, bio-waste management system. So you can compare current and alternative scenario. Important, this tool is focused on bio-waste. So you are going to see all the analysis, the mass balance, and all the data that you are going to see related to bio-waste, source-separated bio-waste, and organic waste included in the residual waste. So what is still remaining in the residual waste. The other source-separated waste fraction, such as plastic, glass, paper, textile, are not considering in the tool. So this is important to know, okay? So how the DST is working? Basically, you enter in the tool, you create a project. The project is the case study that you want to study, and the tool compare scenario within a project. So you have a case study, you create a scenario, and then you can create another scenario or, I don't know, an alternative one, and you can compare them. And you, as I told you before, you have all this stage analyzed. Each project can be built or using data inventories or library of waste processes already included in the decision support web tool. Actually, those libraries were built by us, by the consortium. Or if you have time, expertise, and data available, you can create your own data inventories. And the values of the performance indicators are calculated based on the value that you inserted in the inventory of the waste processes. These are the set of the indicator. You can see here these three let's say, aspect that we are going to consider as an indicator, the environmental, the environment, the economy, and the society aspect, and you have all these indicator, consider it in the final result of the radar diagram that you are going to get after you insert all the data in the tool. And then, apart from the result of the diagram, you have also a file Excel where you can have also some information about the compliance with fertilizer regulation, and also the data and the calculation behind the decision support tool related to the mass flow. Again, the result obtained from the decision support tool is strictly dependent on the list of the indicator that we are using. We are using this set of indicators. So because we decided that this kind of indicators were relevant to be studied, but of course, if you want to study another kind of indicator, you cannot do that, okay? So this is the, let's say, how the results of the decision support tool will be represented in this way. So you have this radar diagram with the list of this performance indicator. So we have climate change, economic cost, labor, space requirement, time of sorting, electric ratio, thermal ratio, and transport intensity index, okay? To create scenario, we need to build this data inventory for each stage of the bio-waste management system. And again, you can think to build a new library. To do that, you have to consider the data that you need. So you have to understand which data are needed for the inventories. Then you have to look for the available data, contacting expert, consulting available report to calculate the data list required by the decision support tool for each phase of the bio-waste management system. And then, well, this will be the most easier part, introducing the list of data in each phase of the decision support tool. But let's go together to build a simulation. So I have here prepared a case study. Actually, was one of the case studies that was studied in the framework of the BioBest project. And the case is Manlleu City in Catalonia, Spain. So here you have the main information that, the basic information that you need to start to understand what you have in front of you, what you want to study, what you want to simulate. So you have here that this city is generating 8,000 tons per year of municipal solid waste. Then they have a recycling rate of 82%. They separate, apart from plastic, paper, glass, source separate bio-waste and also garden waste and residual waste, okay? I would like to let you be familiar with these acronyms because this is something that you are going to find in the tool. So then you have the collection that is done door to door. They are using truck of 80 cubic meters for all the fraction. And for the pretreatment, for the residual waste, they have a manual sorting plus rotative sieve, optical, electromagnets, and Foucault. And then for the bio-waste or separated, the pretreatment are trituration, rotative sieve, and instead for the garden waste that is source separated, there is no pretreatment that is sent directly to the composting plant. For the treatment, both the bio-waste and the garden waste is sent to composting. We are talking about in confined turned withdraw composting. And for the residual waste, we have biostabilization. Again, with the same technology, but in two different, they are treated in two different places. The same plant, but two different places. And for the final disposal, we have landfill for refuse from pretreatment and treatment. So this is just to give you, well, what you have to do when you start. You want to start to use the decision support tool. You have to understand what is your current situation. And the next step would be for you to create a graph. This is something that can help you to check the kind of treatment that you have, the pre-treatment, where the mass balance, just to understand what you have in your case. And here you can see also the distance, because in the tool also the distance between, I don't know, where the bio waste is source separated and to go this that is send this kind of source separated bio waste sent to the facility. You need to have these distances, something that is required from the decision support tool. So I don't know if you can see well the upper part. I don't know how to release that. Anyway, then we are going to see that directly in the tool. But you can see here on the top, there is like different steps. And each step, okay, correspond to the different stage. So I'm not going to go, you are going to see in this presentation all the main data that you need to build this kind of inventories. But since you are going to have this presentation, I will not go into detail to that. But I want to just to, I would like to let you see the structure. So for the generation, you have the data, the type of sources, the waste type, the generation unit, the bio-waste generation, the source size, the composition of bio-waste, and the food waste composition. This is for the generation. Then you have a similar inventory to fill that is related to the source separation. So you need to know the waste output. In our case, there is the bio-waste, the residual waste, and the source separated garden waste. Then the mass flow parameter, so the mass distribution, the macro impurity. This is also important. So not only the total one, but also the macro impurity composition. And then you have here the material input. So what type of bags are used, what type of buckets are used, what type of container are used, if you use them. And then you have the socioeconomic aspect. So the public and the private space occupation, and also the private generation time. Why we consider those kind of elements? Because, well, from the analysis of regarding the barrier to make source separation, people were saying that they don't have enough space in their kitchen and they don't have enough time to generate. That's why we analyze also that aspect. For collection, you have the type of collection. Again, here, the consumption of trucks and diesel, and socioeconomic aspect. So the worker, so the person hour, and the public space occupied by, I don't know, by the truck, for example. Important for the data collection, the inventory for the collection, also for the transport, are made per ton, are calculated per ton per kilometers. Instead, all the other are per ton. So just to let you understand that let's say the way of thinking of the tool, everything is per ton. Okay, so when you are going to analyze some specific inventory or to select a specific inventory, what is really important is to check if you don't want to create your own inventory, to check if there is one that is more similar to what is your situation. For example, if I have an anaerobic digestion that is treating, I don't know, 1,000 tons is one case. Instead, if I have an anaerobic digestion that is treating, I don't know, 200,000 tons, of course, the library should be different because, of course, the scale of the plant. So this is important to let you select the right libraries, okay? For the pretreatment, I have the same situation. I don't want to go, you know, I don't want to, you know, disturb you too much, but since you are going to have this presentation. So we have the same data for pretreatment. Then for treatment, I divided in two parts because there are many data. So, and this is the case of Mailleu. So you are seeing already a real case. So for Mailleu, we have this composting for the source separated bio-waste. In this case, I put biogas generated, even though there is no biogas generated, just to let you know that according to the treatment that you are selecting, of course, if you are generating biogas because you have an anaerobic digestion, you are going to put the data here. Otherwise, you can put 0. Okay, so that's why I wanted to put that. And then you have the material output, the energy output. In the case you are producing something, but in the case of composting, we are not producing either electricity, either heat. Would be different the case of an anaerobic digestion, but you have direct emission. You can see here the direct emission. Again, here we have the consumption demand, so water demand, electricity demand, diesel demand. And here you have also the social economic aspect, so the workers and the public space occupied. And here we have a news compared to the other cases. We have capital goods, so the annual capacity of the plant and the lifetime facility and the investment cost. This is similar to collection. I'm not going to go too much into that. We have also the database for bio-based product use of compost as fertilizer, for example. And you have here similar data. And for the final disposal, we have here the example of the landfill. So you have material and energy output, direct emission, then energy output, in the case, for example, in the biogas that is produced by the landfill is captured. So you are generating electricity by using the biogas produced. And here you have the diesel and the electricity consumption. And again, the worker and the public space requirement and the capital goods. So after you have inserted all this data, again, you can select the inventory that are already there. If you want to start something, maybe just to test the tool, I advise you to do that. Or maybe you are really proud that you wanna, enter into this really long list of data. You can do that. There is no problem. After you have inserted all the data, so you have built all the stage of your bio-waste management system, you need to insert the average distance. So that's why it was important to visualize that scheme at the beginning to check the distance between the origin, the process's origin and the process of destination. And this is important because this will calculate also the emission related to that, to this transport. Then, when you have done all that, and only if you have done all that really well, you are going to have this situation. So you are going to get this kind of screenshot, and you have an Excel file with the calculation and the parameters that you can download. Then you have the bio-waste flow diagram, and then you have the result of the simulation, the radar diagram that I show you at the beginning. So this is just an example of the Excel file. This is important just to check the biomass balance, the mass balance, because you can see how much is entering in each phase. So that's why I think that this kind of Excel file is important. Then the tab of scenario extensive results is basically summing all the data that are giving you the indicator that you will see in the radar diagram. So it's important to have also that, because you can check which contribution is the main contribution. So you don't have just the total, but the total of all the stage, but you can see which is the major contribution. So that's why this Excel file is important. Then and this was an upgraded from the decisive. We have this KPI tab where you have bio-based composition, mass distribution, and other different kind of indicators that are not the indicator that you could see in the diagram rather, okay? And then you have also another tab related to the compliance. So checking that compost and digestate is compliance with different standards and regulation. For example, related to the heavy metal content, for example. This is the bio-waste flow diagram, the other part that you can download. You can see there are different links. You see this link, this colored link. When you are going to, during the building of the inventories, apart from inserting the data that the tool is requiring you, you have to build this link manually, actually. But this is important because you can see, okay, this part is going to collection. This part is going to this kind of transport that is going then to final disposal. And at the end, you have this graph. And this is actually the result of Mayo with the real data. And this is, at the end, the result of the simulation. Yeah, the data that you see here, again, is calculated as sum of, for example, in the case of climate change, the sum of the different impact, the different climate change impact for each of the data that you have inserted, for each stage and for each data. So that's why it was important to check with you the file Excel, because this is a really important element that I didn't see in other kind of decision support tool, that you could, download this kind of Excel file to double check if you have done something correct or not. So I think that this is really, really important. Also to check which part is giving like the mass, the higher contribution to that indicator. And you have the same for the economic cost, the labor, the space requirement, the time for sorting. So we are talking about, for example, the time of sorting are the hours that in total the city is needed to separate, okay, in a year. This is how it is calculated. And for example, for the thermal ratio and the electric ratio, we don't have electricity, either thermal energy, and that's why there is this 0. And even though in the landfill of Boris, that is the landfill used in the case of Mayo, you have an electricity generation, this electricity is auto-consumed by the plant. That's why at the end, 0 is the result. So I don't know how much time I have now. What time I didn't check?
Currently it's 12:08.
Okay.
So about 15 more minutes.
Okay, great. So we are going to check the possible application. So basically the potential user of the decision support web tool. Basically, the municipality responsible for bio-waste collection, because they had to deal with the generation of bio-waste from household and commercials, and also the big bio-waste generator, such as commercial activity, big companies with canteen for the staff, for example. And then the entity responsible for bio-waste treatment, such as public authority, waste management operators, and the waste management consultancy and researchers to plan, analyze, and improve collection, treatment, and final disposal scheme for the bio-waste. So, possible application. Well, basically, why you have to use this decision support tool? First, to check the performance of your current system, and if you want to compare this actual current scenario with the other scenario. So you can check the change in the bio-waste treatment, change in collection system, change in the bio-waste treatment technology. I don't know if you want to introduce composting, if you don't have it, if you want to introduce anaerobic digestion, change in the bio-waste transport, change in routes, for example, change in type of truck, or you want to introduce change into bio-waste final disposal. I don't know, probably you have landfill, or you wanna check how it is impacting incineration. In the case, for example, you don't have any other possibility to treat the bio-waste in anaerobic digestion or composting, for example. So how the decision support tool is showing you the different scenario. Well, in this way, basically you can see visually, this is just an example, to check the different impact in two different scenarios. So the radar's diagrams show how the decision support tool works when comparing two different scenarios. And just to go through the end of this presentation, and then I would like to go with you directly in the tool, just to let you see what I have said. So the strength of the tool is the fact that can give you multi-criteria evaluation of existing or potential and alternative bio-waste management system by using different indicators, okay? And also the good point is that library already built are available, and these are related to existing facilities. So you can decide if you want to select one or another. Weaknesses. Big amount of data are needed to create specific waste process inventories. This was a big weaknesses we see also from the decisive project. But well, if you want to have something accurate, you need to check this kind of data. Or you can use the available inventories. And of course, further improvement could be included to make much more friendly the decision support tool. Conclusion. Basically, again, the decision support tool can help you to simulate scenario, to assess the performance of specific scenario, to support decision making when planning, change, or evaluate the existing system. So, for example, the tool can be used by local and regional authority for planning or for planning manager, for example, to visualize the current bio-waste management system, identify deficits, to have an holistic view about the performance of the current bio-waste management system, and comparing, for example, with alternative scenario. And then to support the decision when there are many parameters to consider, and also to be supported when defending a proposed solution. So, for example, you want to propose something to your I don't know, municipality, and you want to have something to support your idea. And to finalize, this is the last one. The decision support tool offer an objective first assessment. This is a first assessment. But anyway, the final decision needs to be taken by experienced people, teams, that can adequately interpret the result produced. And data gathering process to build new process library is intense, also because there is really a lack of data, a lack of standardized data that properly describe bio-waste management system at local scale. And also, results should be taken with caution in the case of uncertainty or poor quality of available data. Also important, the possibility to update, change the data inventories of the waste process to build scenario according to the local context will make it possible to introduce more precise value and obtain more accurate result. So that was from my side. And maybe what I can do now, I don't know what time, how much time I have. Let me check if we can go together.
5 minutes, yeah.
5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes is enough. That's fine. So I will share again my screen. Okay. Okay. Can you see it? Just say yes, no, because I don't see you. Okay. This is my, well, I entered in the decisive tool. I have already my user, and I have here my list of projects. So what I have built, okay? So basically, if you want to create a new project, you have to click here, and you have to basically check. You have to follow the steps, okay? We are not going to do that together because there is not enough time, but let's go, I don't know, together in the case of bio, of the case of Mayeo that you saw here. You can see here the link, the result, again here the Excel file, the result, and the biomass, the mass balance, okay? So if you go into the current scenario, you click here, and you can see the steps that I show you before. So you click in the different steps, you see here. And according to each step, for example, let's go to the source separation, for example, okay? You have to click here. I have already built that, so that is it's much more easier for me. But I wanted just to let you know how it works. And here you have the list that I show you, okay? And you have to fill it. So then when you go here at the end, you have this mass balance you see here, okay? And what I said before is that, for example, if I go again into the scenario, for example, I don't know, in the treatment, okay, view link and link input. You see here, this can be removed or put it again like this, okay? Okay, so and this is helping you to check if you are, I don't know, forget something, or I don't know, you are not considering something that was relevant. What is important here? Here you have the user manual, okay? You can click and you can see it. Also here, really important. This was an upgrade from the previous version. You can have here a list of source separation, collection, pretreatment, transport, library. So you can click, you can see it if it is something that is reasonable for you, and you can select it. When you are going to select it, is much more easy everything. So, well, this is something that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you enjoy, and let me know if you have any question. I'm here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rosalia. Yeah, it's such a useful tool. I feel like I imagine people will just want to start logging in and getting to grips and understanding how it works for themselves. The floor is open if there are any other reflections, comments, or questions. Or Mike and Gemma, if there's anything to supplement from your side at this stage.
Yeah, in fact, just to kind of round out the session with one more Slido question, we would like to ask you one more thing. So feel free to check out this QR code or log in here. And a very simple question here, just to collect final feedback. What is your key takeaway from this session?
Yeah. In the meantime, we want to remind you that we will share with you the presentation, the video. You can also visit our website. We have the long list of outputs there, so you can also download the documents. And we are going to send you the decision support tree document and tool as soon as it's ready. So we will be happy that you can take advantage of this tool.
And understandably, after such a kind of intensive session with all of these tools and the assessment matrix, with all that in mind, we'd like to thank you for participating, being here, and hanging on until the final moments. And so far from a couple of takeaways, the tools are great, but we need to perhaps take them offline and work with them and see if they have kind of real implementation success with local authorities. We support that, and we think that's great, and we look forward to hearing from you about how it goes. Another one about the importance of good guidance to make biowaste collection more feasible, and then leveraging support or leveraging action with support from data. So qualitative based approaches and solutions, very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and local authorities that are in charge of the collection and the communication and so on, we need to support local authorities in terms of knowledge, skills, economic flows. So it's important to provide them with help and with this know-how about the best way to proceed.
Would anyone else like to just jump in, whether you wrote something or not, and share a takeaway?
Maybe it's worth adding that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can also run these sessions a bit more tailored for groups of municipalities to really sort of hold their hand initially to work through them and even complete perhaps the tools or the matrix that have been shared. So this can be first of hopefully a bit more of a longer collaboration, and happy to reorganize sessions as far as I understand, at least from our side as well.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, we can talk about the upcoming sessions. We have another webinar with the Circular Economy Stakeholders Platform on the 24th of April. So you are invited to. We are going to talk about biowaste and waste management with the participation of other best practices and colleagues from biowaste, Life BioBest team. So thank you for your attention. Jack, if you want to close the session.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. This is the links to all of the great outputs that the project has worked on so far. There's just a couple months left, sadly, but we will share online the recording, the presentations that have been made today, so you can go back and look at them. And yeah, as Jim said, we have an event coming up later in April, an in-person one in Brussels in June. So yeah, check out the website, and there's much more happening there. And just thank you to Mike, Gemma, Rosaria for the great presentations. And yeah, thank you all for joining today. It's been super interesting.